Throughout history, the most prosperous rulers led with a blend of responsibility and nobility, viewing their royal status as both a gift and a burden. Then there's King Edward VII, son and successor of Queen Victoria, a monarch known for her devotion to her husband, Prince Albert, and the strictness often linked to her reign. Edward, affectionately called Bertie, might be the last person you'd expect to stir up trouble, but his reputation proves otherwise. From duels with Winston Churchill's father to an affair that may have contributed to his father's death, no scandal was too extreme for Bertie. Today, we're delving into the eccentric history of Edward VII, the scandalous king who unraveled his own reign. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to the Wanda Discoveries channel, leave a comment, and share which other infamous monarchs you'd like to learn about. Ready for Eddie's story? Edward was known as a ladies' man from a very young age, so much so that at 19, his parents sent him to the army, hoping the discipline would curb his wild behavior and help him focus on his studies. However, when Bertie's fellow soldiers snuck actress Nelly Clifton into his quarters, his father, Prince Albert, had something to say about it. An angry letter from Albert read, "I knew you were thoughtless and weak, but I could not think you depraved." Typical dad commentary. However, after Albert died of typhoid fever just weeks later, Queen Victoria was devastated and blamed her son. She claimed Albert's death was caused by a broken heart from Bertie's actions. If this tale were about anyone else, perhaps the young Bertie would have turned things around, but instead his father's passing only amplified his wild tendencies. Clifton was only one of Bertie's numerous scandalous affairs. Besides frequenting French brothels, Bertie's lovers included actresses, pin-up girls, socialites, and even aristocrats. One affair even led to Bertie being subpoenaed during the divorce proceedings of Sir Charles Morant, 10th Baronet, when his wife admitted to a relationship with the prince. King Edward VII, also known as Bertie, was a notorious playboy, seducing women left and right. He was regarded as the quintessential Casanova of his time. His reputation was such that he even had special furniture designed for his many encounters. For instance, Bertie had his own room at the famous Parisian brothel Le Chabanais, and within that room, he had a copper bathtub decorated with half swans, half women figures. This was a tub filled with champagne and women, a rather extravagant way to indulge his tastes. Moreover, Bertie also had a love seat, or a love chair, custom-made. This chair was specifically designed to accommodate his sizable frame, later earning him the nickname Tum Tum, and his desire to entertain multiple women at once without any effort. With 2 brocade seats and sets of bronze stirrups, the chair's purpose has long baffled historians. Richard Thompson, a professor, remarked, "Goodness knows how it was to be used, though we could certainly make a few guesses." Despite his numerous lovers, Alice Keppel stood out as Bertie's main mistress for 20 years, and their affair lasted until his death. Keppel was well-liked by the public, and many believed she made Bertie more pleasant to be around. She was so important that, when Bertie lay on his deathbed, she was the only mistress allowed to visit him. Some believe this wasn't out of the kindness of Bertie's wife, but because Keppel created a scene outside Buckingham Palace, demanding access. The truth behind this remains unclear, but one fact is certain. Keppel's legacy lives on as the great-grandmother of Camilla, the second wife of Prince Charles. Perhaps royal scandals run in the family. Bertie's romantic entanglements were not limited to England. He frequently visited France, where he had liaisons with actresses, aristocrats, and even escorts at his favorite Parisian brothel. One of his nicknames, Edward the Caresser, was earned through his numerous escapades across the city. His reputation in Paris was so well known that women would approach him wherever he went. However, Bertie always preferred the luxurious, champagne-filled rooms of Le Chabanais, where he could gaze upon his coat of arms, a reminder of his royal stature. Despite his numerous risky affairs, Bertie found himself in trouble for not one but many of them. One of his lovers was Lady Randolph Spencer Churchill, the wealthy American socialite and future mother of Winston Churchill. When her husband, Lord Randolph Churchill, discovered the affair, he attempted to blackmail Bertie. Bertie, in response, challenged him to a duel. However, he either forgot or chose to ignore the fact that dueling had been outlawed by his father, so the duel never took place. Instead, Bertie, in his usual manner, banned Lord Randolph and Lady Churchill from society, possibly a deliberate act on his part. It's challenging to psychoanalyze someone who passed away over a century ago, but Bertie's complex relationship with his mother, Queen Victoria, is quite apparent. Their bond was strained, and much of the world had similar issues with the Queen. She never quite forgave Bertie for Albert's death and continued to mourn him for the rest of her life. According to author Catherine Arnold, Bertie's choice of women reflected the opposite of his mother's stern, grieving demeanor. His lovers were warm, lively, and nothing like the woman who spent much of her life in mourning. However, Queen Victoria didn't like Bertie even before Albert's death. Upon learning of his first affair, she famously wrote, "Oh, that boy, I never can or shall look at him again without a shudder." In addition to his sexual exploits, Bertie indulged in other vices, including excessive drinking, smoking, and eating. His enormous size later earned him the nickname Tum Tum. He wasn't ashamed of his behavior either. At his coronation, Bertie dedicated an entire pew in Westminster Abbey to his special ladies. At the time, such an act was seen as disgraceful, but Bertie had no choice in his ascension to the throne. The public had no say in choosing their king, despite his perceived shame. Bertie's behavior was so damaging to the royal reputation that many doubted he was fit to rule. He didn't just defy expectations, he embarrassed the crown, yet there was no alternative, and he eventually became king. However, due to his many indulgences, Bertie only remained on the throne for 9 years, though it likely felt much longer for those around him. What do you think? Which of King Edward VII's escapades was the most outrageous? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to check out some of our other videos on the Wanda Discoveries channel.